limits, Iran benefits from continued enrichment, research, and development by expanding the numbers of scientists and technicians it has with first-hand nuclear experience, which will be invaluable come the day they disdain any longer to conceal their real nuclear strategy. And Bolton insisted even well-intentioned senators like Bob Corker and Tom Cotton, who suggested automatically reimposing sanctions if Iran gets within a year of having nuclear weapons, would only make the deal worse because it natively ignores that Iran is already within days of having nuclear weapons, given that it can buy them from North Korea or that it could evade Western intelligence and inspection efforts. Bolton continues. He said Trump should have abandoned the deal, but in any case, the agreement will soon have it in its last breath. There's an investigation, like I told you. That's what Trump wants. He wants a full account for all the instances to where IAEA inspectors could not get in to various military installations to be able to do searches to see if there was activity going on. And there is dozens and dozens, from what we understand here at For the People, examples of them being turned away at the gate, not being able to get in, not being able to do their job. So clearly they're doing something and they're up to no good. What is it that they don't want us to see? Some new stealth planes? Or it has something to do with enriching uranium? We all know that's what it is, and we already have traces and evidence to show that the North Korea, works with Iran, and they're two pieces of a pod. They love each other a long time. The mullahs love North Korea. They love it. And believe me, they're staying tuned, watching the whole thing to see how we react and what Un is able to get away with. We're going to have more about Un a little bit later on in the broadcast. Now, this is sick. I always cringe when there's stories that happen in the state that I do the broadcast from, but I don't know what it is. Florida does have a lot of weird players in it, you'd have to admit. This has to do with a gentleman. From what I understand, the story is about a gentleman who has schizophrenia. I don't know if you've ever encountered somebody with mental illness, but people hallucinate. They see things that are not necessarily there. And such was the case with this Florida man who apparently had an imaginary girlfriend and thought that his mother's friend, David Armstrong, was flirting with his girlfriend, but never existed, according to Fox 13, our local affiliate here, right down the street here from me. Desario's mother reportedly called the police after a shooting, saying her son was mentally ill and had shot someone in the garage. Well, he did. Brian Desario, 30, of Port Richey, allegedly shot and killed his mother's friend, David Armstrong, 56, because he believed, again, the man was flirting with his girlfriend. And then the Pasco sheriffs were on the scene holding weapons. And then they had this body cam, and we have obtained the audio. And this will kind of give you an idea of what in the world happened. This is unbelievable. You got to listen to this. There's a shot. That's where the officer was shot at. Getting his gun ready. His canines with him.
Shut your sirens down. Shut your sirens down. He's shooting. Stand by.
This is the Pasco County Sheriff's reacting around his house, holding weapons and body cam.
Let's go.
More shots. Now, this is close to his school. And so the school now is on lockdown, taking precautions just in case you should run into the school.
Oh, we still don't play. Hands, bro! Put your fucking hands up! Hands, bro! Hey! Stand by! Stand by! I need a shield! Get the shield out of my fucking truck!
All right, I apologize for the language if you heard that. Did not know that was part of the audio. We listened to some of it. So anyhow, that was the scene yesterday in Port Richey. What's really disturbing about this whole particular story is the firepower that this mentally ill guy, Brian DeSario, 30, of Port Richey, had. He had an AR-15 rifle and a .22 caliber rifle. According to authorities, they're in Port Richey. They don't understand. It's not clear to them how he obtained the guns. The mother, I'm sure, has information on how the son got guns in the house. And I'm thinking to myself, if you know your son is schizophrenia, has schizophrenia, you know he's schizophrenic, he's off his medication or he's on medication. I mean, usually when you're diagnosed with schizophrenia, and the reason I know something about it, I don't have it, thank God, but my aunt Linda has schizophrenia, and she's hallucinated, and she can have fits of rage. On medication, she's okay. Without her medication, not a good thing. Clearly, there's a lot of mental illness in our country, and I don't know if this guy was on his meds or off his meds. I'm not quite sure. But it's amazing what somebody can do that's mentally ill and getting a hold of guns. I'm shaking my head here. I just can't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't. And I am certain that the police officers are going to look into this story and try to figure out nobody that's has schizophrenia should have a gun or have access to a gun, period. I mean, if you're mentally ill and you're hallucinating, clearly he thought that mother's friend was flirting with his imaginary girlfriend. It was real for him, but that's schizophrenia for you. He imagines it as if it was just you and I having a conversation. We were there together, as real as you and I are. That was what it was for him. Unbelievable. Sad story. He took his life. He ran into the house, killed himself. They sent a robot in and found him dead. And mother, in tears and frantic, and was hoping it was going to end another way. But, when you get your son firing at the officers, the officer didn't kill him. He killed himself. But you don't shoot at officers. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. He wasn't thinking. He's got mental illness. It's more real than you think, more real than you know. People that you could be walking around with in the grocery stores or at workplace and off their medication. And there's people that self-medicate. I love that, where they don't take, they know they need to be on medication, but they take other stuff, to alcohol, marijuana, and things. And that's just a Band-Aid. I mean, people chemically have issues where they have to be medicated. And they have to have it. And if they're not under the medication, they're susceptible to this particular stuff. I'm going to be monitoring that story. But really, to me, it's a wake-up call. And it should be for anybody that has somebody in their family that has a mental condition that's unstable. We need to do a better job of making sure that they are being watched and monitored, even if they're adults. And clearly the guy was in his 30s. But having a gun and having two of them and an AR, which is an automatic rifle, you could hear the shots towards the officers. I mean, that was scary, very tense. You can hear the adrenaline rush going through the officer. I mean, fight or flight. He definitely was swearing, but I mean, you're being shot at. You'd probably be saying some of the similar stuff too out of your mouth. That's scary stuff. You're being shot at by an automatic rifle. I mean, man. And for just trying to come to the aid because of the mother calling the officers to come to find out why her friend is shot in the garage. She heard shots. She called. She did what she was supposed to do. Whose guns were there? Was it the guy's guns he got a hold of? He knew where the guns were. I mean, he should have never known where the guns were, but we don't know. It could have been his guns. Maybe were given to him and never did anything up until this point. But again, he thought, in his mind at least, scary, that flirting with his girlfriend, and he was going to have any of that. Well, he's dead. And mental illness, folks, it's definitely not to be made fun of, and that by no means am I trying to joke or make fun of. I am just bringing the reality that there's a lot of folks in our society that are untreated, not getting care, not getting help, and, you know, some people, they need to be Baker-acted. Where it is two people, they get together in a family that decide that their loved one needs to go in for help and evaluation and get on medication and get better. And sometimes there's no getting better. It's just treatment, an ongoing treatment for a lifetime. And that's the case with my aunt. Unfortunately, her story was the story of her. She was Victorian in her class. She was, you know, A student and everything. And unfortunately, she had a bad episode of a drug that she was given back in the 70s, a trip of some kind, and she never came back. She was model quality, beautiful. You should see the pictures of her. But she's nuttier than a fruitcake. I hate to say I love my aunt, but she's nuts. Everybody in the family knows it, but she's our aunt. We love her. She's sweet as can be, but I've seen her where she's been the nasty of nasties. I remember her grabbing a knife from a dishwasher when my mother was in the kitchen, and she just went off with my mother. Luckily, my mother didn't get hurt, but she later on had to go to the hospital. She was living with us for a while. I don't know if she was off her meds for that day, but it was scary. Really scary. So if you have any questions, contact your mental health department in your city and seek out information on how you might be able to help your loved one. It's not easy, but, you know, to avoid, you know, where somebody's short-circuiting, somebody's going to come unglued, come unhinged. Isn't it so much better to be able to reach out for your loved one and do something for them? It's not easy, especially if it's your son or your daughter, to say that they have some kind of mental issue, because then you think it reflects on you. It's the kindest thing that you can ever do to seriously help somebody. And listen, you know, you think, well, I don't want to meddle, I don't want to get involved with somebody else, but I think that Johnny, I think he's capable of doing something. I mean, he's, you know, he looks like he's going to do something. You know, if you see something, say something. More people need to do that, and you know, we could have less killings in our country, and less people going off and doing nutty things, hurting other family members. There's always a story behind the story, and so, like I say, I'm sure we'll hear more because this is an active investigation. Here's an interesting article that I came across here about how astronomers strike gold. They witness a massive cosmic collision, and they said it was a faint signal, but it told of one of the most violent acts in the universe, and it would soon reveal secrets